Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com, and in this video, we are going to be looking at the Grand Seiko Omiwatari, a fan favorite and one of my personal favorite watches from Grand Seiko. So if you're new to this channel, this is where we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as an authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive on this timepiece, final points of consideration at the end, but also throughout the video. Have further questions, looking to buy this watch, check out the link in the description down below to the product page. But without further ado, let's jump into the video and take a closer look at this watch. Along with their razor-sharp casework and stunning dials, one of Grand Seiko's calling cards is their advanced movement technology, and spring drive is a point of pride within the brand's long list of achievements, as many probably know that are watching this video. Now, since the first spring drive patent was filed in 1978 to the release of the first spring drive powered watches in 1999, Grand Seiko has been on a quest to refine the concept, culminating in the 2004 introduction of the 9R series movements. One heavily debated design cue within the multitude of spring drive watches remains the love it or hate it power reserve display often found on the dial. Some collectors find it to be a useful feature, while fans of dial symmetry prefer a more subtle solution. Now, Grand Seiko has obviously listened to some feedback, and now you'll find many watches within the catalog that will have the power reserve indication on the movement side rather than the dial side. That said, one of the watches among the first in pushing along this charge was the manually wound 2021 release, the SBGY007, also known as the Omiwatari. This watch stands out for its dial's balance, its mesmerizing dial effects, and wearable case with a distinctive silhouette. Let's begin with one of Grand Seiko's best dress watch case designs within the Elegance collection, first seen in 2019's steel SBGY003 and gold SBGY002, two of the models created to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Seiko's Baselworld introduction of spring drive. The graceful curves of the case, referred to by Grand Seiko as the Dress Series case, are meant to evoke the shape of a wind-filled sail, and you can easily see this inspiration in the gentle arc of the entire profile. The front-facing finishing is rendered in Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polishing, which still manages to dazzle collectors with its level of precision. As a counterpoint, the case features fine brushing along its flanks. In contrast to other cases, there are less hard lines and angles being showcased, with a theme of elegance being revered throughout the final presentation. Now, this is one of Grand Seiko's best wearing dress watches, without question, with a 38.5mm case diameter, a tailored 10.2mm case height, and a compact lug-to-lug of 43.7mm, making for a comfortable wear while providing a commanding wrist presence due to the high level of polish on the slope bezel. A gently domed sapphire crystal showcases the arresting dial texture, aided by an anti-reflective coating on the underside. A signed push-pull crown resides at 3, offering a smooth winding experience, and water resistance is listed at 30 meters, a step behind others in the broader Grand Seiko lineup. The screwed-in case back features a sapphire display window, giving a view of the movement within, which we'll get to shortly. Between the 19mm lugs is a padded crocodile leather strap, bringing another level of cohesion to the sum total of the Omiwatari, being accompanied by blue stitching. The 19mm lug width does put some constraint on strap swapping, but this is less and less of a concern these days given the broader availability of odd-sized straps. Now, despite the simplicity, the Omiwatari has to be one of my favorite dials of any Grand Seiko. It's not going to wow you with its over-the-top level of detail until you start to look at it very specifically. It's more of a subtle effect when you're looking at it, and given that the rest of the dial is more simple in its presentation, not being thrown off by the power reserve indication or a date, it is going to allow you to really bask in what the dial texture is showing off. Now, Omiwatari is the Japanese word that refers to the natural phenomenon that occurs on Lake Suwa in Nagano Prefecture. When the waters freeze over in winter, a long ridge often appears in the ice, traveling across its entire lake. And the legend refers to the Shinto gods traversing this path, with Omiwatari translating as the crossing of the gods. The printed elements of the dial are appropriately reserved, with the Grand Seiko word mark below 12 and spring drive above 6, along with a printed minute track and caliber designation at the outer edge. The applied silver GS logo sits further towards 12 and matches the tone of the finely faceted hour indices, being meticulously cut in the Shinshu watch studio on a drum tool being checked for perfect reflective nature through a microscope by a trained artisan. Likewise, the modified Dauphine style hour and minute hands are positively katana sharp. And another touch that accentuates the chilly theme of the Omiwatari is the heat-blued second hand, gliding freely in one direction like the glide wheel of the movement. Finally, we come to the manually winding caliber, the 9R31. Now, we've covered the spring drive concept at length before on several occasions, one of which I will link below, but the elevator pitch is essentially this. Spring drive is powered solely by a mainspring, but offers leading quartz accuracy without needing an external power source like a battery. The system uses mechanical power as an energy reserve with the help of a mainspring in conjunction with a freely rotating glide wheel at the far end of the gear train. Now that's going to create a small electrical charge with the help of a magnet at its axis in close proximity to copper wire, which then in turn sends an electrical signal to an integrated circuit and quartz oscillator. Then the IC returns an electromagnetic pulse to the glide wheel via copper wires, acting as a frictionless brake, ensuring the wheel rotates in a single direction at a rate of 8 times per second. This creates the gliding sweep of the second hand that appears practically stepless, unlike a conventional mechanical movement. All this engineering pays off with an accuracy rated at plus or minus 1 second a day or plus or minus 15 seconds per month. The dual spring barrel in the 9R31 is manually wound, which helps deliver an extended power reserve of 72 hours or 3 full days. It accomplishes this by use of longer and thinner mainsprings, which not only help to keep the movement compact, but by unwinding simultaneously, they extend the power reserve without having a dramatic roll-off in torque. This is a 30 joule caliber, and you'll see several of them through the case back, along with the aforementioned power reserve indicator, which gets its own heat-blued hand. The caliber view is dominated by the single plate on top. The ultra-fine hairline finish is hand-applied by artisans at Grand Seiko's Shinshu Watch Studio, and its surface dotted with highly polished countersinks for the jewels and heat-tempered blue screws. You'll also spot a few strategically placed peaks at the gear train below, adding up to a fascinating view of Grand Seiko's elevated movement craftsmanship. The barrel gets a radially brushed finish, and you're also going to see some beveled edges and a healthy amount of color-filled engraving. So all in all, you have 72 hours of power reserve, plus or minus 15 seconds a month in accuracy, and having hacking as part of the package, all while looking the part as well. But now at the conclusion here, let's talk a little bit more about the Omiwatari, my thoughts, my connection to it, and what I think of it ultimately, some of the cons and pros. So to begin here, I want to actually share a little anecdote in my first experience with this watch, wearing it for an extended period of time. Now, I've been a fan since its release in 2021, but my first time really wearing it for an extended period actually came when I visited the Shinshu Watch Studio and was touring it. Now, I noticed at the time of doing that, I was about to go on camera and I was wearing an SBGY007 white birch, but that is a watch produced at the other manufacturer from Grand Seiko when it comes to their manufacturing of mechanical movements, not spring drive, which is going to be the heart of Shinshu where this is done. So out of respect, I saw another gentleman and he approached me and basically allowed me, he was on the Grand Seiko staff, to wear his watch, an Omiwatari, and I let him wear my white birch for the day. And during that whole tour, of course, I was able to see where all of the manufacturing took place for many of these calibers, and a watch like this is being produced. But I remember just also loving this watch the entire time. It wore so well on the wrist, and I've had a sentimental connection to it because my own understanding and further understanding of spring drive, as well as where the heart of where these watches are produced, came with this watch on my wrist. Now let's talk about some of the cons and the pros. I think the two biggest challenges for the Omiwatari, one is going to be 30 meters of water resistance, not going to be for everybody, but I think the number one challenge with the Omiwatari is its price and positioning. I think where this watch is sitting is basically between, you have the 9R65 family of calibers, and what's being presented there, you're more in like the $5,000 to $7,000 range for those watches. If you look at the Snowflake, you look at the SBGY013, other models like the SBGY065, that's the entry door for spring drive movements. That is all there, and then at the top of it, you have things like the UFA, the 9R82 movements, which get over $9,000 to $10,000 to $11,000. And then sandwiched between it is the Omiwatari with this 9R31 spring drive movement on the inside. So I think that's the number one challenge. The Omiwatari is somewhat on an island in its price and positioning compared to other parts of the Grand Seiko catalog. But if you just remove yourself from that idea and just look at the Omiwatari and what it brings to the table, it was one of the first watches from Grand Seiko to really deliver an idea that I think think so many people were requesting. They didn't want to maybe have the power reserve indication on the front of the watch, maybe not having a date as part of the formula. Also having something that wears thin on the wrist. This is 10.2 millimeters for a spring drive. Now with the presentation of UFA, we've seen more possibilities for this. That said, at the time in 2021, this watch was a true game changer. It presented many of the aspects that we were looking for, and then beyond all of this, there's a subtlety, there's an elegance to the case design, the dial finishing that I absolutely love about the Omiwatari. And this is without even getting into the standard approaches that we just expect from Grand Seiko by default, which is the spring drive accuracy and everything that comes to the table and the rest of the finishing and presentation. So what is my thought on the Omiwatari? If you can get beyond the idea that this watch maybe is slightly on an island, it's positioned between the 9R65 family and the things above it, like the 9R A2, the A5, and something like the 9RB2. And you're somebody that wants a Grand Seiko watch and wants the form factor to match. You have under $9,000 in your price range, but you also want something that's clean, it's elegant, it's tasteful, and maybe even a watch that would surprise you if you've never given Grand Seiko a look or maybe been able to connect with the brand in a certain way. The Omiwatari is one of these bridge watches that I think is able to get people into understanding what Grand Seiko is all about, and is probably one of the most overlooked watches relative to what it's bringing to the table. I know many people love this watch. There are fans of it everywhere. It's on the fringe of being one of their icons, but it's not quite to that same level as other watches in their catalog. And for that, I think it is slightly overlooked. It's not considered in the same class as a Snowflake, a Spring, a Lake Sua, but I think it should be. It's one of the most important watches that Grand Seiko has in its current collection. I have sentimental connection to it given how I was first introduced to it to wear it on the wrist for an extended period of time. And I adore this watch in the way that it's presented, and I think if more enthusiasts gave this one a shot, there's a lot being brought to the table and a lot to like. But all right, guys, that's all we have for this one. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. That does help out the channel. Don't just say that at the end of these videos. Also, if you are in the market for this watch, it is available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. TeddyBaldassarre.com is an authorized dealer for over 35 brands. Every purchase comes with quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. And in addition to that, how we're able to keep doing what we do on our main channel and producing content every single day, whether it's on our website, main YouTube channel, here, it's through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd absolutely love to have your business. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.